We have gone all over the country looking at various programs, some that are ranked very high, some that are just a part of perhaps where they are when it comes to realignment, or both. And Georgia, of course, a part of the SEC. Highly ranked again and very high expectations. We go into their backyard and try to figure out where everything is with Georgia and what the fan base thinks as well. Anthony Dasher, UGA Sports, part of the Rivals.com network, joins us, Sikkim 365 Radio. Is Georgia underranked, Anthony, at 5?
14th, we're above them right now. These are teams that have all been there, done that as far as the playoffs go. So now I think Georgia's probably situated about where they need to be, considering, what they've got coming back. And again, look at what those other teams above them have done historically.
JT Daniels steps in at quarterback, and there's been some flux since I know Justin Fields transferred and Jake Fromm left. Does this bring a little stability to them now because he'll be there for a couple years?
No question about that. I mean, JT, last year was such a cluster in so many ways. Starting out with Texas Bennett, and of course JT wasn't really healthy enough until the week after the Florida game. They played Mississippi State rather when he got his first action. But now he's been with the program a year. He's learned the system. He got in 4 games last season. Was very effective, and he's one of the biggest reasons that Georgia is feeling pretty good about themselves. So I think they finally got that quarterback who can open things up and make things a lot more exciting on the offensive end, which you need to do in this day and age of college football if you want to have designs of winning the championship.
Anthony, what was your take on the Oklahoma and Texas news about 3 weeks ago, and what have been your thoughts as you've seen this kind of continue on to the point where they're accepted in and we don't know when they're going to start play? But from the SEC point of view, what are your thoughts?
I'm all for it. I mean, it was kind of funny. I mean, I was at SEC Media Day when all this was going down, and the funny thing about it was it happened like just right before Jimbo Fisher took the stage, which the timing could not have been more perfect, for that. But personally, I mean, I like seeing it. I think obviously Oklahoma and Texas are going to bring a lot to the conference, just from a pedigree standpoint, and what they've done historically, their fan base. I mean, two crazy fan bases who love their teams, and I think it's going to be great. I'm very excited. I know there's some, maybe some old school people who want to keep the SEC like it is, but hey, I'm all for it. It's kind of ironic too. Actually, Oklahoma and some of their athletic administration was actually in Athens this past week, kind of meeting with Josh Brooks, JD here, and kind of going over, checking out the facilities here, kind of making some comparisons. So, but yeah, I think they're two great fits, and I'm personally I welcome both wholeheartedly.
Anthony, you could tell us the truth. They were there like 5 or 6 months ago too, weren't they? When they were, you don't have to just say recently, although that makes sense. Obviously, they got to do their reconnaissance and due diligence as well.
Right.
When you look at the SEC, we know about the national title. We know Alabama's got a chunk, but not just Alabama. Others do as well. Sure. Is the conference, in your opinion, it's strong, everyone knows it, but is it soft in the midsection or underbelly?
There's some teams I think you can probably look at and definitely say that. I know in the East, I mean, Tennessee is definitely rebellion. It's going to be a couple of years. Vanderbilt is Vanderbilt. I think Kentucky, to their credit, is playing is got some better athletes under Mark Stoops. I'm still not. They're still not ready. I don't think to contend in the East, but you got them. Missouri is a fair to Midland team in the West. Of course, you still got Mississippi State still trying to get back up, and Lane Kiffin's trying to find a defense. If he can never find a defense, Ole Miss may be pretty good. But there's definitely, I think, a case can be made for you probably got three. I'm gonna say 2 really really good teams. After that, you've got probably two very good teams. And after that, it's kind of you can probably pick and choose a little bit. But top heavy league, I'd agree with that. I mean, I would agree with that.
I know all things are loaded for bear for that Clemson game, and it may not matter what the outcome of that game is for either team if it's close. But schedule-wise this year, lines up. It's kind of funny that Clemson kind of has the same thing with their schedule, is that this kind of lines up for the Bulldogs, doesn't it?
Oh, no question. I mean, you take Clemson out of the equation. I think the AP poll came out today. I think Florida was the only other team with Georgia's schedule that's ranked right now. So, yeah, definitely it shapes up pretty good with Georgia, even if the Bulldogs do happen to lose to Clemson. And Clemson, of course, they dominate the ACC rather so much over the last few years. You don't really see that change. So if they lose to Georgia, they've got a very, very good chance of running the table, winning a conference game, get right back into the playoffs.
Anthony, I hate to bring the mood down, but what is the latest, if anything, on Eric Gilbert and his status? For those that don't know, the transfer from LSU, former 5-star guy, and he's away for some personal issues. What's your understanding about kind of where that is at this point?
Well, there's been a lot of different stories about that. Some erroneous information came out today. I would like to set it straight on that. First of all, number one, kid is not suspended. Now, that came out today in some stories. That is definitely 100% not true. Eric is, of course, he has some issues at LSU, as well. And what we understand, I'm trying to think of a good way to put it, mental behavioral issues.
Okay.
Stuff that kind of needs some medication. And he's been with a practice, I think, one day, but he was also, he has been still at the football facility, just has not been on the practice field. So he has taken some, according to Coach Smart, has taken some time to kind of get straight. Ron Corson, the team trainer, is working with him. And I suspect he'll be back at some point. Sitting here today, I'm not sure how much he will contribute, but a lot of the rumors maybe that you've heard about him, getting in an argument, fight, whatever, with Kirby Smart at practice, being suspended. Neither one of those things are true. Now, I've talked to like 3 or 4 people at Georgia. They adamantly say that wasn't the case. So it's definitely a blow. I mean, he was going to be a guy who was going to come in and contribute at the X position. Of course, moving receiver from tight end was going to be a big boost. Of course, George losing George Pickens for the majority of the year, but now it's a little bit questionable about what's going to go on with him this season. But he is still part of the program. Just a question of when he's going to get back.
Okay, how much did the loss to Alabama, with that basically not quite Hail Mary, but pretty close to that, how much does that still eat away at Georgia?
Oh, quite. I mean, they won't say it publicly, but I think quietly it took a lot of up. I mean, you don't get that close to winning the national championship, have it snatched away like that on a great play by Tua, at that point in time to win it. But that was definitely a heartbreaker. I mean, that's one that Georgia wins that. I mean, the perception of the program right now is completely changed and all that kind of stuff. But that was a heartbreaker for Georgia fans. I'll just say that. And I don't think it's one that's going to be soon forgotten. The only thing that's going to take care of that is Georgia actually getting it done. As they have to make it to the title game this year.
How much does Kirby Smart want to be that first assistant that beats Saban?
Oh, a lot. I mean, he's never going to say that publicly, but I get knowing the competitor that Kirby is, and I can promise you he wants to be that first one. And we'll see. I mean, every assistant that's lined up against Coach Saban that's gone down, but we'll see what happens if they have to beat the title game this year. But no doubt that Kirby, I think, would love to be that first one.
Back to what Craig asked you about when you heard the news about Texas and Oklahoma, and you love it, and I think most people probably do, unless they're now kind of in a way trying to fake. Wait, what about us? Which is normal too. If in fact, and they're going to be there, whether it's in a year or 2 or 4. Yep. How do they set up the conference? We've seen about the 14 pods, the East and West changes. Auburn has some natural rivalries in the East that perhaps. How do you think that ends up, and how much will there be behind the scenes? No, Alabama cannot come to the East Division.
I'm sure there'll be some of that, but I'll be honest with you, the easiest thing for them to do is have 2 18 divisions, move Alabama and Auburn to the East Division. That way, Texas and Oklahoma can stay in the West and play a team closer to them. I think that's just the natural way to do it. And I've seen all these, scenarios with pods and this, that, and the other. But to me, that's just too convoluted. I don't know. I mean, maybe somebody started and we can figure that out. But I just like to see them just stay play 18 divisions, move Alabama and Auburn over. And like you said, they can keep their natural rivalry. Alabama with Tennessee and Georgia with Auburn. They keep that would have to change the thing around. So I'd say go 2 18 divisions. All
right. Thank you. Appreciate your time. Great stuff. Georgia Bulldogs. Anthony Dasher from UGA Sports, part of Rivals.com. Thank you, Anthony, for the show. All right, I think he answered some things. And with the conference, there's no question it's a powerful place, and it's about to get even stronger with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma. But there are times, and you've heard me talk about this, and SEC fans have, at times, if they actually listen to what I'm saying, might pay attention here, that there is an SEC bubble. You look at the top 25, and a team from outside the top 25 might beat somebody in the top 5 or 10. The team in the 5 or 10 doesn't drop very far, the team that wins moves up high. And then it seems like it creates kind of a force field of where you have this big, huge,
it's a safety net.
Oh, you can't drop them. They lost the number 8 team in the country.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you can't drop them again. Yeah, they lost twice, but they lost the number 8 and the number 10. Yeah, I mean, that's all kind of set up.
It does seem to have a little bit of that. And I'm not saying it's not their fault. Again, what the SEC does is not their fault. They're doing what most anyone in their position would do, including getting bigger, better, faster, stronger. But there does seem to be a little bit of that when it comes to the protection. And in the end, though, the better teams, in the end, they have a lot of them. And now they might at some point even have more, depending on what happens. Who gets better if Texas and Oklahoma, when they arrive, and who's affected with losses because of their arrival. If, in fact, who that might be, some of the middle-tier teams in the SEC. All right, when we come back, we continue to.
No, we can